Well, hello there, humans, hippies, earthlings, whoever you are, wherever you are, whatever you're doing, and hope you're lucky enough indeed to be doing it too. I'm Bushka on Blitz, and I'm back for another sun-soaked Saturday of fun and justice as we have a look at the T-34, the Tier 8 American heavy tank, the premium heavy tank. It makes a lot of bank, and it knows how to spank. And if you're wondering why I'm reviewing this tank, it's because it's been an awfully long time since I had a look at the T-34 in any great depth, detail, or in fact at all. It's the first premium Tier 8 heavy I purchased ever, and I paid top dollar for it back in the day and was exceptionally happy with my purchase. In fact, it was one of the few tanks that I felt comfortable with right out of the box. And the reason for that is I used to play a game called World War II Online, Battleground Europe, and the big key when you were playing Battleground Europe was very, very much traditional tank warfare. You didn't have a hit point pool or anything like. If your gunner got hit, well, he was dead and he didn't come back, and it was likely that the rest of your tank was blown up. And if you lost your tracks, that was it. You weren't going anywhere. And the way you played the game was very much you'd go hull down. So when I walked into Blitz and got a T-34 and started going hull down, I found that I was able to perform heroic feats of justice and mercy. And I felt like I'd really, I knew how to play the game. And of course, then I started playing other tanks that weren't the same as the T-34, and I went hull down and I just got shredded like Swiss cheese. So it just goes to show that the more you think you know, the less you probably do. And I think I know a fair bit, so I probably know I probably don't know a lot. And this tank has one of the finest turrets that money can buy, and 10 degrees of gun depression. But what it's really got is the best 120mm alpha gun that you're going to get on a heavy tank at Tier 8. Now, it shares a gun with the M6A2E1. It's the 120mm T53A1 gun that the US tanks feature. Now, the M6A2E1 does go fantastically well hull down as well, but it doesn't have the same quality turret that the T-34 has, and it doesn't have the same low profile, relatively, chassis that the T-34 does. But what these guns bring to the party is a lot of penetration and accuracy. Their aim time is not spectacularly low compared to the Russian tanks, but if you've ever driven an IS-5, you would know exactly what I mean. The IS-5 has a hilarious 0.389 dispersion when you absolutely max it out. The T-34 has 0.317. The IS-5 have 221mm of pen when you max it out. The T-34 has 248, okay? And that's without calibrated shells, by the way. I tell a lie there. They've both got exactly the same DPM, 2035 DPM, but the T-34 hits what you pointed at. And in my mind, that's such a massive bonus in this game. One of the problems that people don't seem to realise is the whole theory of high floor, low ceiling. The IS-5 is brilliant in terms of armour profile. It can be very, very aggressive. It quite often can drag things back from the brink of extinction with its super stupid bouncy armour, and that's great. But what the T-34 does is when you aim it at something, it tends to hit that thing. And I can't tell you how many times I've sworn off the IS-3 Defender, the IS-5, those kind of IS series tanks, because I quite simply cannot stand the Russian gun handling. Even the IS-7 drives me up the wall, and it's something that a lot of people agree with. It's just a hard thing to deal with. Now, it has that magical thing that I talk about all the time in terms of effective DPM. It's got 10 degrees of gun depression. So what you're looking at is a tank that can actually poke, shoot, and get the shot off without having to go all the way over the top of the hill. And as you saw there, that allows you to probably pull back before the other guy has the shot off. If you're in an IS-5 or something like that, you've got to go the whole way over the top of the hill because you have a whole lot less gun depression. So why is this not screamed about and used all the time in tournaments? Well, that's a fair point. It's not what you'd call a must-have tournament tank. It certainly is a tank that has its place on certain maps, because the turret has like 800 millimeters of armor in some spots, and it's nigh on impervious. What you're really looking for with the T-34 is the opportunity to put it on a ridgeline. You want to be a ridgy-dig, red-hot raver. And you can see maps like Dead Rail are where this tank was built, what this tank was built for. Now, I love driving the Independence variant just because this is one of the most garish and ridiculous paint schemes ever invented. But for that, I still am absolutely taken by it. And for some reason, it resonates with me, this tank's paint job. But anyway, I digress. Let's talk about some other stuff. Mobility-wise, it's right in the thick of it with 35 kilometers an hour, but it doesn't have the best power-to-weight ratio. That being said, it's only like, a couple of 5% worse than one of your IS series tanks in terms of getting there. Its terrain resistance numbers, though, are quite bad. They're quite poor. 1.4, 1.7, and 2.4 are your resistances on soft, medium, and hard, medium, and soft terrain. And the lower those numbers, the better. The M6A2E1 has 2.9 as its terrain resistance on soft terrain, which is the worst in tier. But then you get guns like the tanks like the IS-5 and such, which are a 1.9. And the 2.4 on the T-34 is a legitimately large number. So you've got to be very, very aware of that. It's not going to be the kind of tank that gets around the battlefield lightly. It leaves a big footprint. And so it should, because it's got a fantastically stupid amount of armor on its turret. I've said this before, and it's an analogy I think is very, very apt for this tank, the M103. Tanks that have big turret armor, it looks like it's got a head like a racing tadpole. Now, tadpoles don't have a lot else apart from a massive big head and a little tail, and that's exactly what the T-34 looks like. Look at the size of the armor on the top of the turret. I mean, you've got a little hatch that's your weak point, but if you're going on a ridge, quite often you can negate that. There's a massive mantlet, and then even the cheeks of the T-34 are spectacularly thick. And that means you can do some really, really good things with the T-34. You can do some really, really aggressive things with the T-34. A lot of people don't realise too that the 34 has one of the best penetrations going in terms of tier 8. When you go to APCR with this thing, you jump up to nearly 300 millimeters of penetration on an APCR round. And that's bloody massive. And considering that it also makes a huge amount of bank, like this thing will print cash even if you're firing APCR, you've got a tank that can get up-tiered very, very comfortably. Its armor profile works just as well versus tier 9 tanks, maybe not just as well, but you're talking percentage points here, as it does against tier 8 tanks. There's a lot of tanks that still can't get through anywhere on the turret unless you are showing them that top hatch at tier 9. And that means that the 34, even, like, look, that's the front of a lurver. That is the front of a lurver. A lot of tanks at tier 8 struggle to pen the front of a lurver. Look at how grey that is. Even angled up, he's angling up, and look at how easy it is to pen this guy. That's insane. That is with AP rounds. You've got nearly 250 millimeters of AP. So you can see why, with gun depression, amazing penetration, and an exceptional turret, you can make yourself a home on any hill and make great cash. If you're looking for a heavy tank to make money, to make credits, and actually have a place on the battlefield, you cannot go wrong with the T-34. It is a absolute standout performer. 80,000 credits there, very, very solid, just over 3,500 damage. Even though I fired a bit of APCR, we used all rations, we used all our consumables, and we still made over 80,000 credits. Like, that's a solid number, and it's a lot easier to do if you don't run all the bells and whistles. Now, something else I want to mention about the tank is I don't have any footage of it, and I didn't get much opportunity, but it's a very, very long wheelbase. And although your side armor is not fantastic, you can actually side scrape this thing if you side scrape it defensively. What do I mean by that? Well, if you over angle a tank like the IS-4, it doesn't matter because your side armor is so thick, and that makes it very, very easy when you're over angled to pull back and get a shot while you're side scraping. What you're doing when you're side scraping defensively is you're trying to draw a shot, but you're not really desperate to get the shot back in. And you'll take it if it's on offer, but for the most part, you're just trying to absorb a shot with those long tracks and that long side wheelbase. And the reason you can get away with it with this tank is because you're very rarely going to get overmatched unless it's a tier 9 TD, and it's so long that it's very easy to create an auto bounce angle with the T-34 side armor. I mean, you're hitting shots like that on that Super Pershing there that you are not going to hit with IS-3 defenders and IS-5s. And you'll know what I mean if you've driven a lot of IS-7 or I mean, look at these. These are the kind of shots that you're really looking to make. Now, this is a tier 9 game, and I'm pretty much going to play a very aggressive holding the flank roll with this 45-02. And all I'm showing them is this stupidly strong turret. I'm angling up to multiple targets at once with that turret. I'm making sure that I'm in a position where I'm hull down, and eventually they're going to push on me, and that's all well and good, but I'm hitting hatches. I'm hitting hatches with a tier 8 heavy on a very, very small turnaround. And once you get a vertical stabilizer on this monster, you will find that you will hit hatches and do those things with a 120mm gun time and time again. And that's really, really important because, I mean, look at these shots. And you're so confident with the turret. Now, you get in trouble when you have to turn and you have to multiple angle, and all tanks do. There's just no way around that. You can't help that. You've got to make the best decisions you can, and you try and make a living out of it, and you take what's on offer. But we have not had to go to APCR once, and that's the beauty of this tank. You won't waste a lot of cash going to APCR. You'll basically just, whatever's on offer, you can hit it. I mean, Super Pershing, no problem. You can do the Super Pershing. There's no one really that's safe from your penetration numbers, and there's no one that you really have to worry about in terms of penetrating your turret. And that means that at the end of the day, you can hold a line. If you can get hull down in positions like that, you can affect the outcome of the battle in a massive fashion and be tremendously successful. And I think that's one of the reasons why it's not only a competitive tank at tier 8, it's a super competitive tank at tier 9. It doesn't spit out damage, it's only 2000 DPM, but it's got a very, very good armor profile. As long as you pay attention to the battlefield and you put it in hull down positions, you will reap the rewards. And it's one of the most fun tanks to play because there are so many IS series tanks out there, and they lack the gun depression, and they lack the penetration of the T-34. And what you can end up doing is actually farming a lot of damage. It's another reason why I love the Carnarvon, for exactly the same reason. Strong turret, amazing gun, amazing penetration, and you can really make money off those IS series tanks who think they are the big daddies on the field. Look, I hope you enjoyed that one. Looking forward to putting out some more content this week. We've got a big tournament thing coming up on Monday Australian time, Sunday NA time. So make sure you like that and you watch that. I'm going to want to see you all there. I want to see you yelling and screaming. The tournament series is going to be big. This is the professional series. We're getting awards the Vinegar Strokes now, boys and girls. So I hope you enjoy it. Look after yourselves. And until next time, stay safe on the battlefield.